forever thankful. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the amazing communities of Moscow and the University of Idaho. For weeks on end during this investigation, the support you provided to our team was greatly appreciated. The numerous phone calls, letters, and seemingly endless stream of food helped keep our spirits high and encouraged us to press on. Today, we want to provide an opportunity to hear from the key agencies involved in the investigation, prosecution, and overall response to this case. Each agency played a vital role in pursuit of truth and accountability. Further remarks will be provided by the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, followed by the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Office of the Attorney General. Each speaker will provide brief comments, followed by a limited Q&A session. With that, I'd like to introduce Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, representing the Latah County Prosecutor's Office.
Oh shit, it's about to go down.
Thank you, Anthony. Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time since we've been able to stand in the same room together, and you have to listen to me talk.
Oh my God, dude.
I'm sorry.
Shut up. He's so annoying.
First off, I want to thank the folks here in Ada County. I can tell you I would much prefer to be in Latah County right now and be able to talk to the people most directly impacted by this. But Ada County has been a phenomenal support and protector for the integrity of this case. I just want to send that shout out right now. So today, you were all, I think, listening in either in person or with the live stream. We have reached the conclusion of the judicial process, and we believe we've achieved accountability and finality and certainty for everyone who has suffered from this, so we can try to move on. As you are aware, Mr. Kohberger pleaded guilty to all 5 counts of the indictment. He pleaded guilty as charged. There was no plea bargain to change charges, drop charges. He pleaded guilty straight up, and he admitted under oath to Judge Hippler that the allegations are true. He has also received a life and death sentence, and that he is going into the Department of Corrections custody, and he will remain there until he dies. Are protected from him. Our communities are safe from him. And we have finality and conclusion, not just for the families, but for everyone who suffered because of this. Chief Dollinger talked about the extraordinary teamwork on this case. I can tell you that Ashley Jennings, my senior deputy, and I, we were with the investigators from day one. We worked as a team beyond any team that I've seen in my almost 33 years as a Latah County prosecutor and 45 years as an attorney in Idaho. This level of collaboration is indescribably phenomenal. And in this room, we have representatives of the FBI, and you'll hear, of course, Special Agent Grover. We have representatives from the Idaho State Police. We have representatives from the Moscow Police Department. We have representatives from the Office of the Idaho Attorney General. I can tell you, I will be forever grateful for the assistance.
This guy is weird.
Jeff Nye,
He's so weird.
head of the criminal division, and his deputy attorneys general, Ingrid and Maddie, standing beside him, offered to us. I don't know that we would have been able to reach the conclusion that we have today as successfully without their brilliant and dedicated work. And they too have lived this case from the get-go.
Isn't that like not supposed to be the way that it goes? So.
Our hearts and prayers go out to the families, not just the immediate biological or legal families, but the university family, the 1122 King Street family. You all saw the group picture, and you've seen that group picture so many times over the past 2.5 years. And now you have real faces to go with those young, vibrant people who, 4 of whom were killed 12 hours, half day after that picture was taken. We respect the families. We realize that we had tough decisions to make, and we made. As I said in court today, we reached out to the families. We asked their thoughts. We listened to what they had to say. We accept and recognize that not everybody agrees with the decision we made, but this isn't a popularity contest. And we made what we thought was the most appropriate decision under the law and on the facts to give this case closure in a sense it would never be realized otherwise. Judge Hipler talked today about, I guess, the fallacy of expecting that there would be some miraculous coming clean and disclosure from the defendant. In the first instance, as the judge said, he doesn't have the power to compel that. We, the state, don't have the power to compel that. And as a practical matter, it would not be helpful. It would give him a forum to share whatever he thought, to control the dialogue. Not going to happen to our victims. We can't allow that to happen. So I'll say this with caution. I look forward to your questions. I will be perfectly honest with you. I will answer them as best I can. If I can't tell you the answer to something, I'll tell you that. And I ask for your assistance and your respect as we walk through that, because there are still people who are suffering, and I'm not going to victimize
This guy's
families.
a
I'm not going to
doofus.
victimize the deceased again. And I'll just tell you that if we get those sorts of questions. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, what I would like to do is hand the podium over to Colonel, share his agency's perspective on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Bill Gardner, Director of the Idaho State Police. To the families, your courage and strength throughout this painful process, it indeed kept us moving forward. Your strength, and particularly your love for one another, was inspiring, and it motivated all of us. You've carried a burden no one should ever have to bear. This investigation demanded the very best from everyone involved. Crime scene teams, forensic scientists, intelligence analysts, and investigators answered the call with professionalism, precision, and resolve.
No, they didn't. No, they
They did
didn't.
not do it for recognition. They did it because 4 innocent lives were taken, and the victims and their families deserve nothing less. It is clear this case required a team approach. Not only did the Moscow Police Department, the Latah County Sheriff's Office, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI come together quickly, but others provided significant assistance behind the scenes. I'd like to highlight a few of those. I personally want to thank Colonel Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police. Once this case moved across the country, the Pennsylvania State Police went out of their way to provide resources and support while our people were on the ground there. Also, it's important to note that from the moment this case began, Governor Little was fully supportive of the investigative process. He provided funding and support to make sure the job was done right. And finally, as was already mentioned, the Idaho Attorney General's office provided significant input and help during the preliminary motions. We relied heavily upon their expertise as we moved throughout this whole process. As law enforcement officers, we often say that this is more than a job, it's a calling. This case reminds us why we answer that call, why we stand for victims, why we fight. In this case, why we fight pure evil, and why we keep going, even when the road is long and answers are hard to find. In this horrific case, I am proud of the work that was done and the people who carried it out. They exemplify the very best of our profession and helped bring closure to 4 families.
Oh my God, they
I'll now turn the
always say
podium over to
this
Salt Lake
same
City FBI
bullshit.
field
It's
office
always like,
supervisory
hey,
senior
like,
resident
let's
agent,
just jerk
Brett
each other.
Kohberger.
Yeah, it's like, dude, let's just jerk each other off a little bit and like talk about how awesome we are
Good
and like
afternoon.
amazing we
My
do at
name
our
is Brett Grover.
jobs and
I'm
how
the
much of a
supervisory senior
sacrifice it
resident
is.
agent in our Coeur d'Alene office of the FBI, which is part of our FBI Salt Lake City division. On behalf of the FBI, we offer our deepest condolences to the families of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xander Canoodle, and Ethan Chapin. The culmination of this case was a long time coming, and we hope the victims' families and friends have some sense of peace in knowing that Brian Kohberger is being held responsible and accountable for his heinous actions. The FBI is proud to have supported the Moscow Police Department in the state of Idaho with the investigation and prosecution of this case. Countless hours have gone into this investigation. The FBI dedicated significant resources to include digital and forensic analysis, intelligence support from our folks at FBI headquarters and field offices around the country, and victim services, which continue to this day. Today's sentencing also demonstrates how the responsible use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, can transform a crime scene into accountability and closure. The IgG process involves the use of DNA analysis combined with traditional genealogy research to generate investigative leads for unsolved violent crimes. In late 2022, IgG provided a crucial investigative direction for investigators working this case. But I want to be clear, IgG was just one tool that led us here today. It's a powerful complement to the core investigative work done by both the FBI and our partner agencies. The bottom line is that successful cases like this are about strong partnerships and a shared goal, the goal of keeping our communities safe and providing a measure of justice for the families of our victims. Thank you. I'll now turn the time over to the Attorney General for the state of Idaho.
I'm confused. So he just basically
Good
was like,
afternoon, I'm Raul Labrador,
don't
I'm the
ask us
Attorney
about
General of the State
IgG.
of Idaho. Today's a heavy day for the families who lost their children, for the community of Moscow, and for the entire state of Idaho. With the sentencing today, a painful chapter closes in one of the darkest and most heartbreaking moments in our state's history. We're here because 4 young lives were stolen from us far too soon. They were full of promise, they had dreams and aspirations, people who loved them, and communities that believed in them. Their loss is immeasurable. Their absence is felt every day, not only by their families, but by classmates, friends, neighbors, and all of us who came to know their names and their stories. There is no sentence that can bring true justice for this kind of evil. Nothing we do today can undo the heartache or fill the empty chairs at family tables. But today's sentencing ensures one thing, that the perpetrator will never again walk free. In fact, he will never harm another family. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Prosecutor Bill Thompson, whose steady leadership has guided this case from the beginning, to the people of Layton County for their trust and commitment to justice, and to the state of Idaho, and to the state, also to the local and federal law enforcement communities who have been focused on bringing justice for the victims. I also want to recognize Jeff Nye, who's the chief of my office's criminal law division, and the team of attorneys in my office who work side by side with local prosecutors. Their contributions were quiet, but vital. They help protect the grand jury's work. They pushed back against legal challenges and successfully defended the use of advanced forensic tools that helped identify Kohberger. These were groundbreaking legal efforts done with resolve, with care, and in the name of public safety.
No,
Their
that's
outstanding
bullshit.
legal work spared the families and the public from a drawn-out, painful trial that would have reopened wounds and prolonged the family's agony. When I became the Attorney General 2.5 years ago, I interviewed Jeff Nye. He was not the chief of the criminal division at the time. And I asked him if there was anything he would change in the office of Attorney General. If you get to know Jeff, he had a long list. It was a very long list of things that he would change in the criminal division. But the first thing he talked about was the fact that our office was not helping local prosecutors with their defense, with their prosecution. It was a take it or leave it kind of approach, that we either took the case and handled all the matter, or we did nothing at all. And he said that there were important cases where we could actually assist in the Office of Attorney General. It's one of the reasons I hired him to be my chief of the criminal division. And I think today culminates the wise decision that he had to make those changes and the important change that we made in the office. This moment didn't come easily. It was the result of tireless effort,
What the
careful
fuck is he
preparation,
talking
and
about, dude?
unwavering pursuit of the truth. Behind the scenes, our legal teams worked diligently to defend dozens of legal challenges. Their efforts not only helped ensure a just outcome, they also spared the families and the community
What is he talking about? IGG?
from the painful trial and endless appeals that would have reopened deep wounds. To the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, no words from any of us, no legal ruling, and no sentence from a judge can heal what you've endured. But I want you to know this. My sincere wish is that you have not carried this burden alone. Idaho grieves with you. Idaho stands with you. And
This is
your
all
children's
bullshit. He's
names
just
will
using
not
them
be
as
forgotten.
scapegoats to like do
We
whatever they
honor
want.
them, not only with our words today, but with our commitment to protecting others in their memory. I will never stop fighting for the people of Idaho, and I thank every single member of this community.
Then why are you
who has
hiding it from everyone in
just
Idaho?
reached out to the families and supported them. And may God bless the souls of the victims and the families who have suffered.
Okay, dude. This is bullshit. They're like not
Thank you.
taking accountability for the stuff
Now
that
we
they're
will
doing behind their
transition
back.
into our question and answer phase. Joining me at the podium will be Bill Thompson from the prosecutor's office and the two lead investigators, Brett Payne and Darren Gilbertson. Just a couple of things before we begin. We recognize that everyone has a lot of questions. We're going to try to do our best to get to as many as we possibly can. Also, keep in mind that there are still some things that we are unable to talk about because of either privacy interests for the victims and their families, and or they are under seal currently in the court.
And
So if those
we're
items
still trying to figure out an excuse.
answered that you will receive. And to keep this sort of orderly, I will try to be the one to point out who's got their hands up. Right there.
Chief Dollinger,
Yes.
Amanda Rowley with Creme 2 in Spokane. What more can you tell us about the release documents that the police department is working on putting online, and what can we expect from that?
Certainly. As we put out in that press release, I hope everybody can understand the immense amount of information that's in this investigation is going to take a lot of time to prepare. It has to be gone through legally to be redacted or figured out whether or not it can actually be released. So
That's
I
not
did
that
get word
hard.
today. It sounds like our website will be going live hopefully this afternoon. There should be another press release coming out in the next few hours to show that website so that people can start accessing that. Initially, what is going to be on there, and certainly this is just for the Moscow Police Department because we're only the holders of our records, but it will be all of our police reports from this investigation. So just the documents there. They'll be redacted, ready to go, again, free of charge for the public. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can, so we wanted to get those out to everyone.
Chief, from the very beginning, your department was saying this was a targeted attack. Can you now say who was the target and what's your evidence to show that?
I'll turn that question over to the investigators to answer that one.
Well, I think Darren and I have, the evidence suggested that there was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. We don't know who the target was, and we're not going to speculate on that up here today. But we can tell you that for whatever reason, Mr. Kohberger chose that residence. Perhaps it's the location, layout, we don't know. But that's, to the best of my knowledge, that's what that statement likely led to.
Then how did they know that they did?
There was a social media account that surfaced that has long had speculation that it was Brian Kohberger. Can you talk at all about the
Papa
Papa
Rogers?
Roger potential connection, if any?
Right. There was no connection. There wasn't at all. And we,
Yeah, right.
we looked into every bit of
I
it.
love
We
that.
took a deep dive into it. We researched it. We
It
utilized,
wasn't him.
That's so
was not.
interesting.
it was not.
I
Thank you.
love
We can cut that
that.
off.
Is it possible that there was a second order weapon used
That's crazy. That's not possible.
against the knife?
Is it possible? All the evidence shows and tells us that he used a knife, a K-bar knife. And that's a weapon we believe was used to commit all the murders.
That's not what Steve just said.
Like, the Gonzalez family said that there was a second weapon that was used on Kaylee Gonzalez. Can you confirm that?
Out of respect for the families, that's something that you'll have to get from them. If they wish to share that with you,
What-
it'll probably be through them, not through us.
What is it?
And one more question. You said that it seemed like he chose that house. There's no clues as to why he.
Working in Moscow for several years as Chief Dollinger, that area is frequented by many people at all hours of the night when college is in session. So what Darren and I have surmised is that perhaps it's the old hiding in plain sight. There's lots of people around. There's lots of vehicles around at all hours. It's not isolated where you'd be noticed. So that's where that comment comes from.
It does. And though it doesn't make sense and it's if you were in that neighborhood at all, it's a very complicated neighborhood. It's very closed in. But at the same time, there's everything from college kids to adults that live there, people that have full-time jobs, part-time jobs. So any one of us could come and go and fit in there. So.
DA Thompson, during the plea hearing and then again today, it seemed like there was a quiver when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning the victims' names. I'm just wondering about the emotional toll on that one.
Yeah, you're right.
Save it.
My voice was quivering.
Save it.
Y'all were in there. There's a lot of powerful emotions. The losses are almost indescribable. And maybe my filters aren't as good as they might have been 45 years ago when I started.
He's scared about something.
But I think you also saw that even Judge Hippler was affected and impacted by this. There is no easy way to remain stiff-lipped and dry-eyed through this kind of tragedy. There just simply isn't.
I'm sure you're not aware of this yet, but there was a photograph where they zoomed in on a picture that Brian Kohberger had on the defense counsel table. It was an image of a black heart. I don't know if you heard this or if you've seen the image. Hearing this, your thoughts?
First, I've heard of it. There is something I need to say though, real quick. This is a product of, I'm sure I'm getting old in my failed memory, but there's one other person I need to recognize, and this is very important to us because this was a key person that was going to take us through trial, and that's Josh Hurwitz, the former United States Attorney for the District of Idaho who left office and voluntarily joined our office as a special deputy to help us. My apologies for the oversight as I wasn't reading my notes correctly, but thank you for that little interlude. Chief?
I guess my question is for Mr. Thompson, since you're still up there, and that may be with Law and Crime. You said that, it was your decision to accept this plea agreement. It brings finality, people die in prison, but Corporal Payne just said they don't know who the target was and why he targeted this house. Was there a reason why, as part of the plea agreement, you didn't require Ann Taylor to have her clients sit down with you all and to answer some of these questions?
I think that Judge Hippler addressed that today very, very well. Of course, Judge Hippler addresses everything very well, we found. The law does not give the court or us the power to require a specific factual allocution. And just let me finish. And we recognize that. We recognize that we could have said, well, in order for us to move forward, we want a factual allocution. But I have to be perfectly candid. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be the truth. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be anything other than self-serving. And I don't believe there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would not further victimize the families. And so that just simply wasn't a factor. We made our decision based on our assessment of law and the facts. We made our decision based on being able to obtain accountability and certainty not just for the victims' families, but for the communities, for the state. And that's where our obligations go. In the end, and the old Harry Truman thing, the buck stops on my desk. Well, that's what I got when I was elected prosecutor 33 years ago. I never dreamed it would involve something like this, but we don't shirk our responsibilities just because it got big and nasty.
Thank you. Corporal Payne and Lieutenant Ferguson, first of all, I want to say to you, Corporal Payne, that the Chapin family told me that you called them every night during that nearly 7-week manhunt, even though you didn't have to. And I just think that that goes to show. That being said, I'm curious as to where you think or believe the murder weapon is, where you think or believe clothes Kohberger was wearing that night are, and how do you think he avoided forensics?
Well, I can just tell you, and forgive us if we go back and forth, it's just kind of how we roll. But there is no evidence that we found that would lead us to any specific, even general location as to where the murder weapon or the clothes have been. And we searched. I mean, the FBI, again, to their credit, we had folks doing soil samples and so all sorts of things to try to come up with somewhere to start searching for these things, and we just never found it. As far as the forensics piece, I'll let Darren speak to
Yeah,
that.
and on the weapon, it wasn't a lack of trying. Everywhere that we had evidence of where he went, based upon phone records, based upon the evidence that we had gathered, we searched that. We went there. We did searches on the ground, in the water. We did searches. We sent soil samples to try to figure out maybe where a shovel had been used. So we searched everywhere that we possibly could, but the reality is we're looking for a singular small, it's not that small, but K-bar knife, and that's it. So it's endless of where it could have been, and we just were not able to find it. So
what about the clothes and visibility though to deploy forensics at the scene, in a murder scene where we now know Gabriel Gonzalez was stabbed 34 times and then another victim was stabbed more than.
right. So the reality is that somebody can carry this out and still not get covered in blood. That's the reality of it. And this does happen. And there's plenty of studies of that. And we've had some of the world's experts that we've asked those same questions because we've struggled with that. Why do we not find more here and there? And the reality was, if somebody has the training, if somebody has thought about it, if somebody wears the right type of clothing, that could be the outcome. And that's what we were left with.
Here.
Chief of Stars of CNN, to Mr. Thompson, did you do psychological testing on Brian Kohberger? Did that weigh into your decision to have a plea deal? And stabbings, multiple stabbings are very personal. How did you assess that mode of murder?
I can tell you that psychological testing was done of Mr. Kohberger. The results of that do not rise to a defense to his conduct under Idaho law. The results of the various testing, most of it done by the defense or on behalf of the defense, is also sealed by court order. So I can't speak to any specifics, but I can tell you, yes, psychological testing was done. I can also tell you that no, psychological testing or any potential psychological condition of Mr. Kohberger, that did not play a role in our decision.
Bill, does it have any bearing on where he will be placed or housed?
Where Mr. Kohberger, where the defendant is going to be housed, is going to be up to the Idaho Department of Correction. And that could very well change over time. And the reality is we will know about it after it happens.
Over here.
Did you monitor Mr. Kohberger's communications while he was incarcerated? And did he say anything that was helpful or gave you any insight as to why he did this?
Yeah, we did monitor it, both while he was housed in Latah County and then once he was moved down to Ada County. We have hundreds, thousands of hours of monitoring that was done, but there was nothing of evidentiary value that was gained from any of it.
Will you be releasing those conversations?
It's my understanding that the jail will not be releasing things that involve personal conversations with third parties. That ultimately would be a decision because the recordings are the possession of the 2 correctional facilities or detention facilities. But I'm pretty certain the Latah County Sheriff's Office policy does not allow for that. And I would guess Ada County is similar. You can ask them.
Back here.
Thank you. Greg Fisher with CBS News 48 Hours. Was there any evidence that Kohberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So trust us, we wanted that to be the case. We've looked for a link and we have not found one, not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the House from their side. So we have never to this date found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 surviving roommates.
Michael Ruiz from Fox News Digital. My question is for the investigators. You guys are going through this case. You got a lot of evidence about his background, his education, his training. You know, you said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive?
We don't.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting. This question is for Anthony Gallagher, actually. I remember when Anthony was a beat cop assigned to talk to us at the very beginning when all of this happened, and now you're running the show. So I wanted to ask, as a community member, has this case shaped and changed how you're focusing on stuff?
It's changed everyone involved. How could it not? You know, it was a devastating tragedy to our community, and our police department is a part of that community, and it was very difficult for us as well. So, you know, this is just one of those things that will not define us, but it is certainly a part of our history that we will never forget. Yes.
Rebecca's been an Associated Press. The perhaps unprecedented level of interest in a court case like this in Idaho was matched by an extremely high level of secrecy within the case. The Gonzalez family has said that they're desperate for answers about what happened to their daughter. Do you anticipate most of the court documents being unsealed, or are there things that you will specifically request remain sealed?
As far as the court documents, Judge Hippler has told us that he is going to work with the attorneys to go through every sealed document. Many, probably most of the documents were sealed for the purpose of protecting against tainting a jury pool. And those documents I would expect would become unsealed. Requests for discovery, various things like that. There are also documents in there that contain very personal, private information regarding victims and families. I expect those likely will not be released under Idaho's protections against what the law calls unwarranted invasions of personal privacy. I realize that can be frustrating for folks who want to be able to explore this thoroughly, but we have to balance, and the law balances, the privacy of the people who have suffered, including the victims who are dead, with giving the public as much information as we responsibly can.
Alex Duggan, the spokesman review. I'm just wondering, did a lack of knowing?
You're seeing all the reaction now after convicted killer Brian Kohberger has been sentenced to life in prison for the murders of those 4 innocent Idaho college students. You're hearing from lead investigators, all the law enforcement agencies, including prosecutor Bill Thompson, now responding to reporters' questions since the judge read the sentencing. Our Brian Buckmeyer, attorney at law, and also Alex Stone, who has been there covering this story along with Arcana Whitworth since the very beginning. Brian, I want to ask you about this IgG technology. It's interesting that once again, the prosecutor and law enforcement agencies saying that they never found the knife that Kohberger used to brutally kill these 4 students, just the sheath. They never found the clothes that he was wearing. Still wondering where those 2 items ended up. But they were able to prove that he was the killer through IgG, through the DNA on this sheath. Pretty remarkable when you hear more details about the investigation and how they found their killer.
Absolutely. So IgG, or investigative genetic genealogy, is somewhat of a new technology within the criminal justice system. In essence, the way that it works is, in this case at least, there was some DNA, they call it trace or touch DNA, just epithelial or skin cells, found on the button of the knife sheath that was found under one of the victims. And because Brian Kohberger doesn't have his DNA in any database like CODIS, a federal database that keeps individuals who've been convicted of crimes, what they did is that they...
Motive is something that we think about and consider as we're preparing for trial, because we're going to have a jury of 12. What we thought was the most appropriate decision under the law and on the facts to give this case closure in a sense it would never be realized otherwise. Judge Hippler talked today about, I guess, the fallacy of expecting that there would be some miraculous coming clean and disclosure from the defendant. In the first instance, as the judge said, he doesn't have the power to compel that. We, the state, don't have the power to compel that. And as a practical matter, it would not be helpful. It would give him a forum to share whatever he thought to control the dialogue. Not going to happen to our victims. We can't allow that to happen.
This is bullshit. Like he's just using that as a scapegoat. The families are the ones that want to know. Oh my god.
I'll say
Huge
this.
thunder thing just happened.
I look forward to your questions.
Oh god, what? Okay.
I will be perfectly honest with
My
you.
bad.
I will answer them as best I can. If I can't tell you the answer to something, I'll tell you.
The culmination of this case was a long time coming, and we hope the victims' families and friends have some sense of peace.
Damn.
Their loss. Behind the scenes, our legal teams work.
It has to be gone through legally to be redacted or.
What Darren and I have surmised is that perhaps it's the old hiding in plain sight. There's lots of people around.
We found. The law does not give the court or us the power to require a specific factual allocution and truth. I don't believe that there's anything that will come out of his mouth that would be anything other than self-serving. And I don't.
He's never heard him talk.
Come out of his mouth that would not further victimize the families. And so that just simply wasn't a factor. We made our decision based on our assessment of the law and the facts. We made our decision based on being able to obtain accountability and certainty, not just for the victims' families, but for the communities and for the state. And that's where our obligations go. In the end, and the old Harry Truman thing, the buck stops on my desk. Well, that's what I got when I was elected prosecutor 33 years ago. I never dreamed it would involve something like this, but we don't shirk our responsibilities just because it got big and nasty.
Thank you. Corporal Payne and Lieutenant Gilbertson. First of all, I want to say to you, Corporal Payne, that the Chapin family told me that you called them every night during that nearly 7-week manhunt, even though you didn't have to. And I just think that that goes to show that there's some character to this. So that being said, I'm curious as to where you think
What?
or believe
This is so weird.
the weapon is, where you think or believe clothes Kohberger was wearing that night are, how do you think he avoided forensics at the scene?
Well, I can just tell you, and forgive us if we go back and forth. It's just kind of how we roll. But there is no evidence that we found that would lead us to any specific, even general location as to where the murder weapon or the clothes have been. And
Did you do psychological testing on Brian Kohberger?
we've looked for a link and we have not found one.
I would expect would become unsealed. Requests for discovery, various things. Think about and consider as we're preparing the trial because we're going to have a jury of 12, ordinary, honest citizens there who wanted to figure this thing out. But we also, and I've also found that juries tend to follow the law. And even jurors who come in with strong feelings, they tend to follow the law that the judge gives. And there is no element of motive in Idaho law for murder. And so we set that aside as something that we were going to dwell on, whether there was clear proof of a specific motive, because we knew it wasn't legally required. And practically speaking, we knew it wasn't something that we possessed that we could give to the jury without speculating. And I'm sure as heck not going to stand in front of a bunch of 12 jurors and start speculating. We're going to give them the evidence. And the evidence in this case, what you heard at the time of his guilty plea.
That's
back on
bullshit.
the
All they've
2nd,
done is speculate. Are you
that
fucking
evidence
kidding me?
was
This is
compelling. That
ridiculous.
showed his guilt without having to worry about motive in a human sense.
Bitch,
Thank
no.
you for the question.
What? How? They're not fooling anyone, right?
Did he say anything when he was arrested?
So Brett, myself, and members of the FBI, we traveled back to Pennsylvania. We were there. And I know they hit on it earlier, but I'd be remiss without talking about the cooperation, the support that we had from them was absolutely incredible. From the time that we got on the ground with the Pennsylvania State Police and with the FBI back there, it was unbelievable. Anything that we needed, they were there to facilitate it. So we helped to shape what that looked like, what the arrest looked like, what took place once they hit the house on the search warrant and he was taken into custody. Brett and I were at another location, a barracks of the Pennsylvania State Police. And then he was brought to us and we conducted an interview with him that night there in Pennsylvania.
Can you talk about what he said?
So we went into this interview. We used a lot of influence and guidance from the FBI and their behavioral analysis unit to help us a ton in framing our interview strategy rather. When we spoke to Mr. Kohberger, we kept it pretty surface level to begin with. The idea being get him to speak and keep him speaking. It was pretty surface level. And then when we tried to get into things a bit more detailed, he decided to end the interview. So that's pretty
As soon as we tried to walk into the purpose of why we're there, which obviously he knows we're detectives from Idaho. So that's when we really started to shut down and they just shut it down. So
What was his demeanor?
calm, relaxed.
say very similar to what you see and whenever you see him in court.
Next question. Yeah, Mike Baker from the New York Times. I'm wondering if you can talk about Mr. Kohberger's family, whether you got much cooperation, tips, input from them along the way.
The only thing I'm really able to talk about is that we didn't get any tips or any evidentiary items from the family. So, and
Just wondering if you ever had any idea of what made Mr. Kohberger take a plea deal again?
No.
Can I ask a follow-up? I know the report.
That was a short answer. You probably have time for a short follow-up.
Can I also ask a follow-up to the investigators? I know there was some reports that there was hiding some container at the house. Did you ever determine what that was?
No, and the belief was in the once she had roommates in her statement, and that's out there, was that she observed something in his hand when she saw him, but we don't know what it was.
You had an expert who was going to testify about cleaning something off of his work computer, some software experts. Was there any evidence that he had tried to write anything from his phone, software-wise? The bar charts, I believe, is their name.
yeah, and so this kind of goes into the connection to the victims as well. That's a similar question. We had the world's foremost experts on this look into it, and there was evidence that he had used software to wipe many of his devices relatively effectively. So there wasn't much evidence obtained after that.
Including, I think he had two.
That's bullshit. I bet he's lying.
I think he had one active phone, but I don't remember, so don't quote me if he had more at his home.
So
or
it
office.
was more than just the work computer that he had wiped.
Yeah, he regularly used software to try to wipe, clear things off and use VPN VPN.
Oh my God, you mean like just doing a normal thing? Like
Kevin
you
Fisher
can?
with
Are
the
you kidding
United
me?
States. I'm hoping you can walk us through the decision to hand off the DNA process on the knife sheet over to Offram Labs, who's contracted by IST, and then ultimately the FBI takes over that IgG process. And then Prosecutor Thompson, I'm curious if you had concerns about constitutional rights issues based on how the FBI conducted themselves in that portion.
That's a good
I'll start out
question.
briefly to, when we were notified that we had a DNA from the knife sheath, and it was a single source male DNA, touch DNA, then we knew that we had capabilities to take that further. So that you're correct, the Idaho State Police has a contract with Offram Laboratories in Texas. So we flew that over there and they started the process.
That's
of
illegal,
working
bitch.
that in what was the beginning of the IgG process. And at some point during it, we were working with the FBI, which we did closely throughout the entire case and every aspect of it.
So what?
We talked and met with them and they had further resources and some capabilities that we thought may get us somewhere quicker. And so we made the decision to then shift that to the FBI and continue that process there.
Oh my God, you guys are fucking
And
shiesty.
as to your question about legal concerns, my simple answer is no. I didn't have legal concerns about how the FBI conducted their IgG
Well, yeah,
investigation.
you wouldn't have
I know
concerns
that
if
was
you
the
just
subject
choose to
of
not
lengthy,
think about it.
Detailed, painfully detailed motions and briefing, and Mr. Nye rose to the occasion and was able to address all of that. But in the end, it's simply no different than sending somebody undercover into any place to gather information. And
No,
I'm
bitch, because
not
it's our
concerned
fucking,
about the legality of it.
it's our DNA.
And
You're,
the
no,
judge
this is
came
not
through and made
okay.
the right decision that there was no violation of the defendant's rights or anybody else's
Wow,
rights.
well, just wait. Yeah, that's definitely going up to the Supreme Court because this is not okay. They can't just make that decision for
We've
us.
talked about this ad nauseum. And the answer is yes. Through the car, most likely. We had some amazing people going truly line by line over tens of thousands of white Hyundai Elantras. So we believe we would have got to it through that avenue. The time frame for that is uncertain. It could have been a week later, could have been 2 months later.
No, because you didn't have the right year.
There's a lot of
You didn't have the right
questions in
year.
regards to that initial window. Brett and I made the decision on what that window was, even though the experts were saying there may be more years that match it, but the simple numbers that we began to look at were astronomical, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of these vehicles. So we chose to try to narrow it and start smaller. And then as we had to, we were going to open that up. But we both believe we would have gotten it through the car.
Yeah, 20 years later.
Mr. Thompson. Amanda Rowley with Grim 2. It appears that the plea deal, it felt a bit rushed. So the question is, why did it happen so quickly, considering some of the families were against it? And also, the Mogan family at the plea hearing mentioned.
Oh, these are good
This
questions.
is the best possible outcome. Just wondering, do you agree with that, or would you have liked to have seen a different outcome?
Oh, they did not want to go to trial
Family.
or
Our
go.
decision was that this is the best possible
Yeah,
outcome,
because they don't have
all
any
things
money.
considered. And factoring into that, that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty as charged. Now, if that hadn't been a factor, we'd be picking a jury for trial starting right now, or starting this week.
That would have been
first
so
part?
much
Why
better.
was this such a quick, it felt rushed, so why did this happen so quickly, even though the family?
No, I hear you. The process moved quickly. There was no doubt about it. And like I outlined for the court earlier today, things changed dynamically the week following the June 18th hearings on the defense motion for a continuance and the alternate perpetrator motion, where Judge Hippler made it very clear that the defense was not going to prevail on either of those. And so the reality of trial was there, and there was nothing else in its way. We were continuing to prepare for trial. We had been doing that for months. And as I mentioned, that's me bringing Mr. Hurwood in to help us because the Attorney General's office was not able with the manpower to help us all the way through trial. We were ready to go. When we were approached by the defense about the possibility of a plea, our first question was, is your client prepared to plead guilty? And it took them a little while to give us that answer. In the meantime, we reached out to the
That's
families,
interesting.
and we talked to the families and we solicited their input. And we considered that in making our decision. The fact of the matter is, and I think Judge Hipler commented on this back on July 2nd when we were in court, is that the logistics of the upcoming trial with 10,000 prospective jurors being summoned in, the court staff making arrangements and preparing to process that part of the case.
Lots of
dictated that
money.
If the case was going to resolve, it needed to resolve quickly. And so that kind of drove the pace over that weekend, the last weekend of June. At the end of the weekend, when we understood from the defense that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty, the court was notified the next morning, and the court wanted to move quickly to get a plea done on the record if it was going to be done, and if it wasn't, so we were not interrupted in our trial preparations.
The trial logistics were the main concern, just as Judge Hipler had said prior, right, with the jury as a factor.
Yeah, the practical aspect is that the trial machine was running, and if it was going to be interrupted, that had to be known as soon as possible. I think that's the fairest explanation.
Michelle, thank you for 48 hours. I just had a question about when we were looking into Kohberger's past. Is there any early signs of trouble, or what did his background look like?
Well, we can't go into his younger years. I believe that's actually still under seal. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what I can tell you is the things we do know about him was that his education led him down a path that was very much focused on forensics, crime scenes, that sort of thing. So that was really what we focused on in his background, is what led him down this path. How may he have prepared for this? And I think that was a big component of that, was just his schooling and his choice of potential future profession.
And just so there's no speculation here by what Detective Payne just said, documents under seal involving Mr. Kohberger's background, they may or may not be released down the road. I can tell you that there is no evidence of any criminal history of any significant nature. There was no evidence of a history of violence. There was no evidence of a history of a factual predisposition to do the crimes that he committed here. So if there are any concerns among your listeners or readers that somehow he was a serial killer in waiting with all of these prior actions, we are not aware of any behaviors like that that preceded what happened here in Idaho.
Take this question here, and then we're gonna have two more after that.
Yeah, this question is for Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson, you talked about any or the it was reached, including Gonzalez. Have you spoken to the Gonzalez's afterward of their displeasure with this, and so what's that conversation?
We have spoken with families afterwards, and I can tell you that families that did not agree with our decision have made that very clear to us. And I don't expect anything different. I respect, and we respect that everyone is going to grieve differently, even within family units. And everyone is going to look at the case and possible resolutions from their own light, and they are entitled to that as victims. I'm not going to pretend that everybody was just fine with our decision, because there were families and family members who were not. And we accept that. We recognize that. It's just a fact of life.
It was stated earlier that the target is unknown. However, it's been speculated that the convicted may have encountered Maddie while she was serving at the Magritte restaurant due to the menu options. When his digital data was analyzed, were there any location pins or any information there that could have connected him to where Maddie worked?
No, there wasn't. like I said earlier, we wanted that. We looked for it in every possible way, digitally, financially, physical location, anything you could think of, anything that we thought, where is the connection? Where's the overlap? And we searched tirelessly and never found it.
At that restaurant.
I can't say that he was never there at all, but we never found any evidence at all from interviewing everybody that we possibly could, talking to every person that would have that information to be able to show that he was there or that there was a connection through the restaurant.
Last question here.
Just two follow-ups to earlier questions, if that's okay, so we make sure we're understanding everything correctly. First of all, my question about the family. You said that you gave the evidence from the family. Was there any hindrance in the investigation from the family? And was there any specific evidence you were told to get?
Are you talking about his family, Kohberger's? There was not any hindrance, anything, nothing that impacted us carrying out the investigation.
Thank you. And then the second follow-up, when you mentioned, like, obviously we follow this line of interest in the studies. Did anything in your investigation indicate that that was chosen as part of a planning process as opposed to just an area of interest?
There was nothing aside from, we have some of his coursework where he did, a crime scene recreation, that sort of thing, but it was all part of his studies. So I don't think that any of us attributed that to a planning process per se. Certainly it was a learning process, but whether or not it was a planning process ahead of what he did, we'll probably never know that.
Yeah, and I would say we didn't find anything that would be any different than a student, a different student in the PhD program.
Gotcha. So then I'm understanding that the planning process, if you're in the investigation about payment, was part of the plan to see that purchase of the Taylor knife on Amazon division the first, I guess, step toward.
Did he plan it? Did he buy it with the purpose of that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
We don't
have
know.
anything to show or prove that he did that.
Well, thank you all. That concludes our Q&A section today. Hopefully we tried to get as many of you folks' questions answered as possible. I'm sure you're going to have further questions. And certainly the question was already brought up about public records requests. Just keep in mind that if you're looking for those in the future, you will need to go to each individual agency or entity that has the keepers of those records. So just to reiterate, the website that City of Moscow is going to be putting up hopefully today, that will only be Moscow Police Department records, and those will be our police reports. So we understand that this case has captured the attention of literally the world, and today's news conference was not held to relive the tragedy, but to honor those lives that were lost, to acknowledge the conclusion of this legal process and to reinforce our wavering commitment to justice, a commitment we share with you. I want to take a moment to thank the members of the media here today. We understand that you do have a vital role in helping the public comprehend the intricacies of this case, and your continued professionalism in covering this emotionally charged and complex case is appreciated. No additional comments from law enforcement will be made today, and if you have further questions, please feel free to submit those through the agency's public information officers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so what did I do? Well, that was kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I just checked for the documents that are up, and it's not there on the Idaho website. So I think I'm gonna just keep my eyes open for that, and then I want to come back on it to do the third live that I want to finish up this series that is wait, hold up. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I want to come back on it and do that in like maybe a couple of hours. So basically what we found out from this whole hearing is that there was absolutely nothing that they have that we don't already know about that incriminates Brian. So basically, still no evidence. I think he has a pretty good case to bring it up to the appeals, and I think they will. And especially because I don't know like exactly like I know that they can get some appeals, you know. So, all right. Well, I will. Oh yeah, actually, I have my live scheduled for tonight at 7 about the stuff that I want to talk about that I've been working on for a while. So try to check back in later tonight and join the party. And I hope everyone's having a good day. And peace and love. Bye.